This is here the result of our working group. We were discussing the network, the relations and the role of the different actors that we met. And we saw yesterday the project SEBIB, which is implemented by the KVB, which is actually a subsidiary of an employers association. And we were trying to understand, because in the last meetings we discussed that it's very important to link employers and the target group. So for us it was important to understand how does SEBIB do this. And so we were looking first of all who are the funders of the project. And this is, for example, the employment agencies and the job centers. And the job centers are directly linked to the target group, so older long-term unemployed. And on the other hand, we have the employer association, which are directly linked to the employers and who have a very good relation to the Senate, who is also funding the SEBIB. Then we were looking at the difference between a collaboration and a networking, and what we saw here is much more a collaboration, a bilateral relation, and not a multilateral relation between different actors. So we are still now in the process to analyze what does that mean for a network or working in a network if you have a stronger emphasis on this bilateral relations instead of multilateral relations. In this matrix we have two dimensions. We have on the one hand the way that the actors are related, how the decisions are made in a hierarchical way or more on an equal footing. And on the other hand we are trying to see how are they collaborating, are they more cooperating, or is there also a competition between the different actors. And when we are looking back at our project that we have seen here in Hamburg, the SEBIB, it was very interesting for us to see that the SEBIB stresses very much the relation that it has to the employers, but not so much the relation to the funders, to the public funding, which however is a very important relation for them in order to be able to implement the project. And we thought at that point that this might be a recommendation which we could give them in the future, that they should look or strengthen their communication in this regard.
If we are talking about relevance of target group-related approaches, we must be aware of the level of our discussion. We can say on the one side that in the debate about labor market policy and different approaches in order to integrate people into the labor market, the state of the art is an individualized approach, which one can say, in other words, is realized in one-stop centers, or the intention of having one-stop center. On the other side, talking about target group definitions or approaches, it is important to see it as a definition of politicians who are responsible for resources. The main decision of the politicians would be, okay, we will take this group, say elderly, as a target group important for us, and we will reserve a special budget for measurements. Yes, I was very pleased from this discussion because realized that it's necessary to look behind our own categories regarding the question of integration of special groups, like in our case elderly. If you try to have a look on your own way of observation, you would be able to see that your observation regarding the question what's the problem of this group is based on special assumption you have beforehand. To give one example, in many description of practices regarding integration of elderly, the problem is described in terms of insufficient attitudes or behavior of the elderly, and not looking on the other side, on the side of the firms. And often the concrete process of selection of persons to be integrated under specific circumstances is not sensitive regarding the point of creaming, so looking for the best one. There's always a danger of having a blind spot in your own perceptions. Another interesting point regarding the organizational dimension of the political definitions of target groups would be how the agencies, organizations or institutions who carry out the respective approaches will get access to the target group. And the example up to now we have the employment service or job center has the main access. And we should look on a very concrete level. What does it mean for target groups, for the selection of target groups, for the characteristics? And maybe there's a segment or part of the target group you cannot reach by these institutions.
A target group specific approach ensures or is implemented so that one has a chance to understand what are the defining characteristics of a certain group of people and what are the challenges in terms of social policy. And if you have understood that, then you can implement a network that is able and willing and has the composition to implement measures and approaches that help to overcome these challenges.